one of the best ways to train your feet is to train your calves. We're going to be talking about training the jaw, training the tibs, the toes, the shins, the fingers, the wrists.
When I started to build the dexterity in my feet and more control over my toes, when I do jiu-jitsu, my feet work like my hands.
And I'm not saying you get to completely circumvent an Achilles tear by training your toes, but I think it's helpful. Why don't we take some stuff from other sports? Why don't we grab a little something from arm wrestling? Why don't we grab some stuff from a shot putter?
You don't need to be obsessed with this stuff, but if it's around, you're going to do it.
All right. I think it'd be great today to talk about like all this weird stuff we've been training.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about training the jaw, training the calves, the tibs, the toes, the shins, the fingers, the wrists, all the different stuff we've been learning about. And it's not for no reason.
It isn't. I think one cool thing is that as we've done some of this stuff for ourselves, like some of the things we're going to be talking about, actually all of them, I've noticed first off, I've noticed levels of activation that I've never felt with anything else, which in and of itself is very unique. But as I've progressed some of these things we're going to be talking about, I've seen definite benefit in jiu-jitsu, in other lifts, in terms of less fear of doing certain things with the body. And I think that's what we're all trying to get to. We're trying to get to a point where like we can look at something and feel confident that we have the ability to do it, or we have the ability to move that way.
Some of these things too are, I don't know, they're just kind of fun. Sort of reminds me of when I was a kid and I would just do push-ups during commercials or sit-ups during commercials, because I just started getting into that and I was like, oh, I could do like 5 push-ups now and I can do 7 push-ups, and it was like fun and exciting. But a lot of these things are integrated the same way. Like some of these things that we're going to be talking about today, they could just be part of your day. Like for me, the rope flow, I do it every morning, go outside. I'm already going outside. I'm already grounding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, might as well just bring the rope around with me. My dog likes to go outside. So I go out there with my dog, twirl the rope around, 10, 15 minutes goes by.
Why do you use the word twirl? Like, why do you have to say twirl? You make it sound so like I can twirl my rope around.
Well, I wasn't talking about my rope. I was talking about twirling my hips around.
Yeah, it can definitely look that way.
Yeah, but some of these things are things that can be, as I like to kind of call it, like incorporated. You know, they're incorporated into my day. As silly as it sounds, you know, calves are something that I was like, my calves are actually pretty big. They're in pretty good shape. They look like
need anymore.
They look like they can do something.
Yeah.
But I think not necessarily my calves, but I think my feet more so need to be stronger. But one of the best ways to train your feet is to train your calves, because you're pushing your ankle, you're pushing your heel up kind of as high as you can on some of those movements. And so I've been working on that. And sometimes the only work I get for them is sometimes just while I'm brushing my teeth, do a set of 25 on one side and then a set of 25 on the other. And I found it to be like just way more challenging than I bargained for. I thought it was going to be easy.
You know what? Since you're starting at the feet, I guess let's start at the feet. And that's actually, there's multiple things that are really cool about what you mentioned there. First off, I mean, while you're listening to the show, maybe you're driving so you can't, but if you're somewhere where you can stand, like we were doing this in the gym, go up on one foot, and when you go up on one foot, go into a like calf press on a single foot and see how high you can get and if you can stay balanced. One of the cool things about what you're doing in the morning is like, you're not only getting up on your toes, you're getting into your calves, you're also passively working on your balance, which honestly, like that's huge. Because like most people, as they get older, they'll fall at some point.
Yeah.
And if you fall and you break a bone, that's not a good thing. So it's like you're getting multiple things in, but it's something everyone can easily add in. I think you mentioned something about Hormozy in that too.
Yeah, before every workout, Alex Hormozy does like 25 reps and does about 3 sets. And it's like, it's one of those embarrassing things. You know, sometimes you work out with somebody and you're like, wow, I'm already shot. So he did that. And after like set number 2, my calves were completely on fire.
Does he have impressive calves?
He does. He's got really good calves. You can see him there in the video.
Have good calves.
Yep. And we're even holding on to stuff, you know, so we're taking some of the balance equation out of it. But one of the things about the calves that we should mention is that it's been shown, like they do a lot of research on the calves. People are always trying to figure out how to grow the calves, and they really figured that the stretch part is an important aspect of it. So while we're talking about, you know, just doing calves just wherever you're standing, it might be more helpful or more beneficial to try to find an area where you can let that heel really drop, let your heel drop below where your toes are. like you would if you were on like a calf machine. Might be more advantageous.
You know, I'm thankful that we're having this conversation because I'm going to be honest. Like I even have calf work programmed into one of the programs I made, and I don't do calf work as much as I should. I'm going to say that right now. I don't. And it makes me feel
We both
bad.
have great calves and we don't train them.
I used to. I don't train them much, but like
I used to train them a lot too.
But I think there's a level of like not even though my calves can look good, it's like, are they as strong as they can be? You know, with everything that I'm doing, I should probably be at least doing more body weight calf work each day, and that's something I'm going to add in. Absolutely, I'm doing it right now.
It's nice to have awesome calves too.
Don't be getting people mad, man. Well, tell me, why is it nice to have awesome calves?
Well, people like they recognize it, you know, like I wear shorts pretty often. It's you know, it does get cold here in California, but only for a few months. And people usually ask me like, what do you do? You know, and I think, you know,
it's bulbous.
Yeah, I'm built otherwise, but if I'm wearing like a sweatshirt or something like that, that's kind of what people are going to recognize. And then not only do I have some calves, but like I kind of have some definition in the shins and the legs. And then people are like, well, this guy obviously like does something. Like, what's your deal, bro? And I think that's fun. I think it makes it kind of cool.
Absolutely. I'll mention this too. Outside of the calves, I think that we've talked about training the feet before. And for some of you who have like been listeners to the show for a long time, you know about this a bit. But man, when I started to build the dexterity in my feet and more control over my toes, when I do jiu-jitsu, my feet work like my hands. You know, it's actually, it's really cool because now like I don't think about these things, but like when I'm, for example, playing guard and I'm using my foot against my opponent, my foot will grab things on the opponent. Like my foot will grab their forearm or their bicep, and I'll be able to use that to manipulate through space. But it's like, I've never had that ability. And also just like things when it comes to balance and all these other things, I just feel so much more from the foot all the way up the body that it's just like, it makes a big difference when your feet are strong.
They probably feel that and they're like, what the hell's going on?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You're like, great, the guy's feet are strong, as if I didn't have a hard enough time dealing with them anyway. But yeah, having some, you know, good control with your feet. I was just, you know, messing around with picking up a towel with my feet. And again, these are things, you just pick up your clothes. I mean, like, I don't know if you have to like sit there and, you know, rigorously do like, you know, 30 sets of 30 of like toe crunches, but that could be useful. And to take some time out of your day to mess around with, you know, picking up a towel or something like that could be part of your training, but it could just be you just chilling at home. It could be sitting on the couch and just trying to flex your feet, like this video that we have of this guy trying to squeeze a towel. And you'll be surprised and annoyed at how difficult it can be. For me, it was like I could only catch the towel. I can only get the towel or grab the towel with the big toe and the second toe, and I couldn't really scrunch it anywhere else. And I was getting pissed. Yeah, I was like, I got to be better at this. And so I've actually been working on it, but you'll feel it.
And that's the cool thing about it. Like this right here, this is an exercise that like I tell people to keep a towel underneath their desk at work if they work at a desk, or keep something. Even like right now we have these, you know, these mats.
So funny looking, by the way.
Yeah. But you see how you can see like those toes are working like hands, man. And it's, if your toes don't, I think this is something to think about. If you cannot have that type of control over your toes where you can't like just turn it into a fist, or when you do that, they massively.
Yeah, you should be able to have that. Yeah.
Right now. And think about this with our feet, we're stepping each day, we're running, we're walking, we're doing all these things. What type of extra benefit might that control bring you? I think it'd probably be pretty beneficial for balance and awareness. It's a skill you should have, you know?
David Weck's been talking recently about, you know, he recently had a hip surgery and he's been talking about how to kind of balance yourself and to have, you know, kind of proper locomotion where you, and the GOATA guys talk about this as well, having a soft heel. So it's not like you're just walking around your tippy toes all the time, but there's a way to kind of walk around that's a little less compressive than your average just stomping on the concrete style of walk. And one way that you're going to be able to do that is if you have stronger feet, because it all kind of starts with your feet. So if you think about it, we're asking our back, we're asking our hips, we're asking our quads and hamstrings, and we're asking all these muscles to behave and to not have any pain and to be like super functional. But the very thing that we step on with every single step that we take is our foot, and we're not really paying that much attention to our foot. So it makes a lot of sense to just try to find ways of working on it. And, a towel is interesting because a towel can be used for so many different things. You can use a towel, you can wring out a towel, and you can train your wrists, your forearms, your fingers. If you just take a towel and you try to like crunch it up, or try to roll it up and roll it as small as you possibly can get it.
Okay.
All these things will strengthen the shit out of your hands and out of your wrists and forearms.
I've never done that before. Like, I've wrung a towel, but I've never done it as an exercise. Like,
oh, it's awesome.
Huh.
Especially if you get like a pretty big towel, because it's kind of like, like almost like a beach towel.
Yeah.
And you start to really try to like turn it and stuff. You're just like, you're so sad because you can't really turn it anymore. You're like, eh. I think we have one in the gym somewhere.
Don't fucking put your hands on that. I put my feet on that too much. That thing's nasty.
Oh.
You gotta wash that thing first. It's crusty. It's crusty, dog. No, the hands are huge though. So I'm gonna mess around with that. But at home, at the office, these are things you could do. No one wants weak hands. Okay. I think. You're about to swing this around in this video, aren't you?
Oh yeah. Some towel flow. Yeah.
Towel flow. I think you should trademark that because I've never seen anybody else do this.
The towel is actually really interesting. I think I had you do it in the gym.
You did, yeah.
You can like try to put as much force into it as you can and nothing happens. Cause like, I know you look like a crazy person doing it.
I saw a comment on this video. They're like, Mark, are you okay?
Yeah. There's a lot of good comments like that. Yeah. You look like I'm going to Olay a bull or something like that, right? A matador. That's what they call them, right?
But this is interesting. What do you feel when you're doing this? Because I've done it a few times since you mentioned it, and it's interesting, but I want you to describe it.
I would say it feels to me a little bit like a med ball. Like, when you go to toss a med ball, except for, again, this is light. So the velocity, you're going to be able to move really fast. And then you see me just like waving my arms around, but you can kind of use it almost like a shake weight kind of thing. But if you can move your arms around really fast, it's going to, as we see, what's
Seedman?
Yeah, Joel Seedman and
that's not all he does, guys.
Power 3 that we had, Power Plus.
Brian McGinty.
There you go, Brian McGinty. He does people do a lot of stuff with bands and stuff like that where you're moving super fast. So I know, it looks absurd, looks weird, but there's a lot of cool things you can do with a towel. And we've had other guests in here just say, hey, just use a towel for strengthening your neck. And they're like, oh yeah, because you could just hold like not a huge towel, but a smaller towel, and you just do light net work. And
Who's the strong man who told that to us?
And Nick Best.
Nick Best, yes. Yeah. You can do the rotations, you can do the extensions and whatever. We're gonna get to neck, but I do want to talk a bit more about the hands too.
That's awesome. Look how fast these people are moving.
And one of the things is people look. I see so many comments of people like dissing this stuff, but the thing is these athletes are learning how to coordinate their joints fast, like coordinated. They're not just wiggling around. There's like consistent coordination between both sides.
Think about when you're in jiu-jitsu and you're explaining to somebody, how to execute something. I bet you more often than not you use sound effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know
to try to express what you're talking about. And that's what Bas Rutten did. Bas Rutten's like, turn yourself into a machine gun. It's like, right?
Yeah,
and you're trying to think of like how to, move super fast. And
then when John Jones did that, he was like, I'm faster, right?
Exactly. And, since Bas was on our podcast recently, I'm like, I'm trying to think of that when I'm sprinting. Because if I'm not thinking, I'm probably going to move a lot slower. If I just when I was lifting heavy, you would think about being explosive. And it was really helpful. Like I would think to myself, I'm going to smoke this weight. I'm going to do this weight, not only like cleanly, not only with good form, but as soon as it's time to like push into this weight, I'm going to explode into it. And you can't talk about exploding into it without making a sound effect.
No, that's good. We're going to come back to that, but on the note of thinking of doing something before you lift, I think that is I find that comes into effect way more when like trying to move heavier loads. It's like when you think to yourself, I'm going to move this very, very fast. I think because an aspect of strength is very neurological. Like when you tell yourself this is going to move fast and then you go to it, you lift it however, but you have that intent. Your lift is going to be very different. So that's just something that, you can just use your brain to help you become stronger.
I wonder sometimes too, if that's really what separates a lot of us is like just the thought, like maybe when you were doing some bodybuilding stuff maybe you were connected to the thoughts really well of like, I'm training my biceps.
Oh yeah.
Because you're really good at like being able to flex certain muscles and being able to mimic stuff that other people are doing and things like that. And so maybe for some athletes and for some people that maybe make progress a little faster than others, maybe that's like one of the biggest differences.
I think, well, in general, I think that just means you're not being passive, right? A lot of times when you do things, sometimes we're doing it passively because it's kind of just like a task. So we're trying to get it done. So you don't necessarily have an intent when you're doing it, but
Hey, like I got to do these 3 sets of 10 where you're thinking like, I'm not necessarily, I have to do these 3 sets of 10 and just get through them. I'm going to do these 3 sets of 10 and I'm going to grow my biceps.
yes. And this is going to be some bro science, but there's a very different feeling of focusing on that versus just doing a curl without any type of thought. Same movement, but I know I get more out of it when I actually put thought to what I'm doing.
Yeah. And we've talked about all kinds of different things like that in the past. And who knows, maybe even like the music you're listening to and all the different ways of like hyping yourself up and tuning yourself into that. You think about like powerlifting, Olympic lifting takes a certain type of thought. So Olympic lifting is usually like quieter, usually a little bit more peaceful. When you watch an Olympic lifting competition, there's like usually no music. Watch a powerlifting meet. There's going to be some like AC/DC, Metallica, and maybe some screaming shit that you've never heard of that you can't tell even what the guy's saying.
Yep. I want to add in real quick though. Back to the hands. What you guys can do at home or even at your work or whatever, if you want to put one there. I keep a rice bucket here and I have a rice bucket at home in front of the TV, but I use that because when you put your hand in the rice and you're doing wrist rotations, fingers, etc., you're going to feel everything from your hands, wrist, fingers, forearms, even like into your back, right? It's when you do more and more rice bucket, you'll feel more and more over time. Just like when you start doing more foot activation work, over time, week by week, month by month, you're going to start to feel more things connect from your feet, then your feet to your hamstrings, then your feet to your glutes. Same thing. Now, like when I do the rice bucket, I don't just feel it in my hands, I feel it in my back. So it's like, it's so beneficial. And I think it's great I think this is just something great for everyone from young to old, because as people get older, they complain about wrist pain, carpal tunnel, finger pain, all those things. This is one of those things that gets blood flow to all of those places. So when I do it, I'll use just the rice, but also I'll put on like BFR cuffs so I can keep blood in here, and then I'll do it. And it's just the level of, I believe, recovery and progress I get from that, because my martial art is very grip intensive, is insane.
Yeah. And imagine that like probably promoting recovery throughout the whole body. Yeah. When you start getting blood flow to something like your foot, or you start getting blood flow to your hands, maybe you're not normally getting that amount of circulation running through your body. Yeah.
You know what? I love doing things and then seeing something that puts a bit of a professional backing behind it, because there's a video on Kelly's. Yeah, right. It's like awesome, cool.
That's okay. What somebody said. That's what a retweet is. Retweet's like, see you, bitch. I told you.
It is. So like the other day, I saw Kelly Starrett post about using BFR as something to help with recovery. And I was like, for a while now, I've been like, obviously, if you put these things on and you start moving these areas around, you're not doing anything super heavy, or you can, whatever, but you get a lot of blood flow to an area. I noticed that was helping me out. I noticed that was helping me like grow in certain areas faster. But I was like, this has to be good for recovery, right? So I mentioned that to the community that I work with. And then I saw Kelly post about it and I was like, yes. Because cool, okay, now someone like Kelly Starrett is mentioning how beneficial this is for recovery. All right, awesome. We've got that backing. But exactly, if you can draw more blood to an area, you don't have to use BFR cuffs. But anything you can do to get more blood flow to a specific area is going to help that area recover better over time.
There's something that sounds like complete bullshit, but is an actual thing.
Okay.
There's something called a recovery run that a lot of runners do. They go out and they do like a recovery run. Now, I think that it might even be wiser to do something else for your recovery rather than just run if you're a runner, just because it's nice to like switch things up.
Yeah.
But people have known this forever, and athletes have known this forever. And this is one of the reasons why there's a stationary bike on the sidelines at every NFL game. Sometimes people will use that as part of their recovery. Sometimes they'll use that as a recovery tool. So recovery isn't always just like sleep and, taking a bunch of supplements and eating and trying to relax and rest. Although those are massively important.
Yeah.
Sometimes some light activity can really be great. And for someone that's a runner, I would say maybe like walking with a weighted vest, or just any athlete, some other activity, after you did something really difficult. Like let's say you just did a powerlifting meet, or let's say that you just did a jiu-jitsu tournament. Probably one of the best things you can do is the next day or maybe day after, go in and do like 40 minutes zone 2 and just kind of chill and just promote blood flow. You could be texting and like, you don't have to have this super concentrated, crazy workout. Mm-hmm. Maybe you go and drag the sled back and forth with not super heavy weights for 30, 40 minutes. But those things are going to actually promote you to be able to recover faster. And I think there's something that could be said about being able to recover. Like it's not just for recovery. It's not like you're just promoting some recovery. You're recovering faster than normal with a workout that would probably otherwise compromise your average person. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is going to get elevated higher and higher. When you're, if you run a marathon in under 2 hours, or get close to that 2 hour mark, your recovery is now 8-minute mile pace. You're just cruising through mile after mile, whereas that's somebody else's maximum. That's what you do on your off day.
I think what you're mentioning there is huge because like it's the same in I think any sport. Like for example, Caveman Dan, I think a video of his just passed by, but he's picking up 300, 400 pound stones, right?
Caveman. Caveman,
Caveman. All right. Caveman. Okay. That's how I'm going to remember it. Caveman picks up 300, 400 pound stones. But like, when he was wanting to just like have a day where things are lighter, he's probably picking up 100, maybe 150 pounds. Maybe he's not picking up anything. Because like, of course, there are days when you don't do anything, which is great. But when you become so proficient that your light days are somebody else's workout, or that your recovery days, like even when I go to jiu-jitsu, I'll have days where it's just like, I'm just going to flow roll with everybody because that's my recovery. But that's a workout for some people. That's a level of proficiency. So it doesn't mean that, you should never just not do things, because there are times where you should just not. But recovery runs, recovery lifts, doing body weight work, all these things.
Brutal leg day makes sense to go in the gym and probably move around on a bike a little bit.
Yeah.
Those legs, I don't even know how to describe it the right way, but my legs, the only way I could think about it is they just felt like dry. Mm-hmm. They just like hurt. They felt like they were going to crinkle or crunch with every movement. And like, I remember getting up and down stairs and stuff like that was kind of difficult. And over time you get used to those workloads and you get accustomed to that. But the next day after a powerlifting meet, the next day after heavy leg day, I would almost always be dragging the sled forward and backwards. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a big part of it. And then, the sled is like one of the most amazing things. I was just shooting some video talking about the sled and promoting. I saw you pulling a sled recently too.
Yeah.
Pulling a sled is absolutely incredible. There's no spinal compression. You get to work your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, your Achilles, your feet. I mean, you get to really get the best of a bunch of different worlds without, and it's also something that there's not much of a concentric component to it. So it's going to be something that's may not make you as sore as like regular lifting. Mm-hmm. And I just really have always loved it. I actually kind of surprised or shocked. Maybe it's just like the convenience of it or inconvenience of it. Like I'm surprised that people don't do it way more.
Me too.
I'm surprised you don't like just drive down the street sometimes and be like, oh, there's a motherfucker dragging a sled.
Dude, I think it's one of the best ways to like build your structure. I wish I did it more earlier, but like now it's a staple. I learned this stuff. I learned sled, like using the sled more from you. And it's freaking huge. I think one of the best things about it though is like, it's something that no matter what, I think it's safe for everybody. Like it's safe for somebody older too, and they can get stronger with it. Not saying that barbells aren't safe for older people, but the thing is like a sled. I think the thing that is like detracting about it for people is the fact that like, okay, you might have to load some weights and take it outside. Not every commercial gym has a sled. So maybe for a lot of people, if they don't have a sled around in the gym in their area, they might just need to get a sled like that for home. But I think like I think it's absolutely worth it. And if you go to my page real quick, there's a video that Mark mentioned that I'm sledding in it. I use the shake strap adapters and I like put 3 of them together. And the cool thing I like about it is like now you can do it around your hips, of course. And you also have the one where you can put it around your body like you were running today.
Yeah, harness, yeah.
The harness. It's on my or actually maybe it's, there we go. The 4th video, you'll see a sandbag.
Provocative thumbnails sometimes.
Yeah. But I put 3 of those shake strap things together, and I like it because like now you can really grab and pull on those things. So not only am I like burning out my legs and my whole body trying to move this thing through space, I'm also strengthening my hands as I pull on it in different ways, and I can also like pull with my back in different ways.
When you do some of these workouts, I mean, it looks like you grabbed a sandbag and you got some other things kind of like set up there, but is this something like super deliberate that you're really thinking a lot about, or you're like, you get out there and you start to pull the sled, you're like, oh, I'm going to pull it forward, I want to pull it sideways, I'm going to pull it backwards?
And okay, so big picture, I want to pull it forward, backward, laterally. So that like I do it, the lateral I think is really important. I think it's missed out upon because like when you play sport, like I played soccer all my life, so much lateral movement. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of research to show that athletes that not only move forward, but also move laterally, like in different sports, they have higher bone architecture because they have all these different forces on their body. So when you're pulling a sled laterally or pushing a sled laterally, you now have this different force that's going through your body, the force that's going through your feet all the way
kind of all twisted up.
Exactly. That's why I think the sled for me is like so clutch because I can go forward and backward, but then I can like, you've seen me pull the sled. Like I'll pull with a really rounded back. I'll pull with a really laterally rotated spine. And this sled is just, I'm putting all that force through my structure, helping it become stronger. So it's just like,
it's awkward and weird. I mean, like, if you're thinking you're trying to like drag something out of the woods or something like that, you're dragging a bunch of logs or some shit or a dead body.
Oh God, why are we laughing at this?
You're gonna, well, in case, well, it could be an alive body. Okay, it's an alive body. Somebody got knocked out in the woods and you picked them up. But when you go to drag something, you're not only going to just drag it backwards because it's not going to be in a good position for you to do that. I mean, they even teach like firefighters and people like that sometimes have to move a body for particular reasons. And so you're going to have to like drag stuff sideways. And I've done this with the sandbag before where I have a sandbag at my house. I think it's like right about 170 or so. And it's not that hard to like, I can pick it up. Like there's a bunch of stuff I can do with it. I'm learning it. I'm getting better at it. But dragging that thing sideways like murders me. Like my legs just go on fire almost instantly. So I agree with you. Some of that sideways stuff can really be helpful too. The way that I use methylene blue is very similar to the way that you're using it. I don't use it every day. I think things that push that button to change your mood, you might want to be a little cautious with it. In my opinion, and the feelings that I get from methylene blue, it does change my mood a little bit. It's a mood enhancer. When I go out and run, I feel like I do have a little bit more endurance. I do feel like I can breathe a little bit better, but that could also be, I've been training very hard as well. So it could be an adaptation to that as well. But as we've had, David Herrera and many other people have come on the show before, they basically just say methylene blue is a electron donor and it allows the body to utilize energy just more efficiently. And I don't know if I can feel that per se, but I know that I feel better when I'm running, when I'm using methylene blue.
Yeah, post sessions of grappling, that's when I usually use. I use it 2 or 3 times a week. Post sessions of jiu-jitsu, I always feel like I have more energy, like much more energy than I typically have, which makes me understand that, if I did want to go for longer sessions, I could, but it also helps me understand that I'm going to be recovering better for my next session the next day, which is a big deal. But yeah, I think that if you guys, first off, this stuff is great because it's third-party tested. Methylene blue in other sources like the stuff that you'll see on Amazon or like random websites, there's no regulation. So a lot of people have levels of toxicity from the supplement because it's not dosed correctly. And there are other things in that methylene blue. Again, this is something that is lab made. It's not you know what I mean? So you got to be careful. And this is why we like using this stuff, because we know it's not going to mess us up.
You can go on their website. You can go on the Transcriptions website and you can get a report of the third-party tested methylene blue and double, triple check it for yourself. In addition to that, they have the Cognitine, which I have not used that much. But when I have used it pre-workout, I did notice I get a zip from it. I think it has nicotine in it, along with a couple other things to go along with the methylene blue. So do yourselves a favor, check out Transcriptions, check out what they got. Strength is never weakness, weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.
And I get this comment all the time when I'm doing some of this stuff. So people are like, why don't you just do manual labor? Why don't you just like work in an airport? I'm like, because I don't want to work in an airport or do manual labor. I want to do it at home. So what? But
props to people that do that too, by the way. And that could be a way for you to, like, that's great. Like that's cool. Like maybe you don't need to work on some of those things because maybe some of those boxes are already checked for you, and maybe you can kind of focus in on more traditional stuff or other things that you enjoy.
There's an aspect though where I find it kind of unfortunate because like a lot of people that do, like, lucky for us, we're able to control our volume of manual labor work, right? But a lot of laborers are in some pain because like a lot of times they're doing potentially more work than their body can handle
every day. Yeah.
Right. They're there or maybe even they don't have strength in certain areas. So when they do things, they're constantly doing it in a compromised way and they have a lot of pain, right? So I think that this is the thing. I've rolled with so many people that like do manual labor and their strength is different, that I know it's something that is beneficial, but it's one of those things that if you don't do a manual labor job, then these are volumes that you can control so that you can build that strength safely. That's how I think about it. So, and as far as hands too, gripping different things like, the barbell is nice, but if you can have things where you're pinching, you're doing these different types of grips, I think like we're probably going to talk about something soon, but the sandbag is really great for the hands, not just the whole body, because when you grab that thing, your whole body is interacting with that bag, including
we talked about, the wrist, how you have to kind of orient your wrist that particular way.
Yep.
Raspberry Ape, who was on our podcast, he was also talking about how like the back of the hand doesn't really get much. And I know you can get those like little flexor things, those things that kind of wrap around your fingers and you open your hands up and stuff. And the rice bucket, the rice bucket does it. But I mean, these are things like you can do these things sort of like wherever. I mean, I've just been practicing doing like static stuff, like, I'm literally just pushing my fingers into my hand and just there's nothing wrong with that. It's like that does something. And if you try to do like an individual finger, you'll be like, oh my God, I'm so pathetically weak at some of this stuff.
Try that in a rice bucket, by the way.
Yeah.
When you do a rice bucket, try to have one finger go like that. Oh my God.
And it sucks.
It sucks. It sucks. But on what you were mentioning about Daniel, Raspberry Ape, he mentioned something, he called it extensor rows, where he puts a band around I think he puts kind of around the wrist here, puts his hand this way and then pulls this way while keeping his hand up like this. And I haven't done those yet, but now that you mention it, like I can even feel the amount of tension and strength that can be created through like this area. You know what I mean? So another thing that you can do to strengthen those hands, but we all want stronger hands.
Well, and we're talking about a lot of these things, we're talking about like, I don't know, just why do we care about strengthening the toes? Well, I know kind of a bunch of people that have torn their Achilles tendon.
Yeah.
Achilles tendon tear takes a year. You're toast for a year.
Yeah.
You can't do a lot of the stuff that you enjoy for a year. You might be able to like get back into walking or something like that, like not too long after, but man, that really is something that sidelines. And I'm not saying that you get to completely circumvent an Achilles tear by training your toes, but I think it's helpful. And I also think like, there's a lot of talk about longevity and brain cognition, and people have, these different things that you can do. People are talking about like brushing your teeth from the opposite hand and stuff like that. And it can help because you're kind of, crossing over from left brain to right brain and all these different things. And they're amazing. But we can get so many of these things from some of these things that we're talking about training. Like we just training your toes. It's like, for me, I think it's my right pinky toe. I have like a little bit harder time moving it. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Kill Bill. She's like, move your right big toe. And she like couldn't figure it out. And then she finally could figure it out. A lot of us don't ever really have to think about stuff like that. And that's great that we don't have to think about it because all of our parts are working pretty good. But it's also good to think about these things so that we can get the connection from the brain into the body. Yeah, here's part of the clip right here. This is amazing. There's always feet in a Tarantino movie.
You know what? Owen just told me that.
Yeah.
So Tarantino has something with the feet, huh? Interesting. Well, Uma Thurman's feet.
Oh man, I just forgot, but I forgot the name of the director. But The Rock ended up with just scoring like another big role. It's Martin Scorsese.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, things are going to get real. I'm excited. I have always kind of felt that The Rock has yet to. He's had a couple of roles that have been really good, and they've showed like his diversity. But I think it's cool because I think the best is yet to come from The Rock, which is saying something, right? Because it's like he's done a lot already, right?
Yeah. I'm excited.
Oh yeah, he's the lead role, and DiCaprio's in the movie too.
Oh,
so he's the lead role.
Dude, that's so cool.
Isn't that dope?
Sick. Yeah. As a fellow bald man, The Rock is a motivation for me.
Yeah.
So let's go, Dwayne. Let's fucking go.
It all started with the people's eyebrow. Now look what happened. And the people's elbow. And the rock bottom.
Yep. All right. We talked about hands. I think a good place for us to go is like kind of since we were talking about the hands, we can go to the back. I was mentioning like the rice bucket. When I do it a lot more, I start feeling more activation in the back. But I think one thing, and we've talked about this about the back many a time, is like over time, if you train, you get better at creating a neutral spine with a lot of the things that you do. And we've had many people on the show come onto the show and talk about, different ways of articulating the spine. Because there's a lot of fear of doing certain movements with spinal flexion, rotation, etc. But the thing is like, I think that instead of just going in and doing heavy Jefferson curls, figure out a way to regress some of these abilities with your back. So like if you have a light dumbbell, a light kettlebell, maybe you do some light Jeffersons with those, or get yourself a light sandbag for home. And I think, when you lift a sandbag, there's going to already be a little bit of spinal rounding with it. And over time, I think it's a good idea to improve your ability to lift objects with slight rounded back, but over time you can increase that amount of rounding. You don't do it immediately. You don't immediately load your back all the way forward and then pull something like a sled, but you can slowly introduce that into your back. And over time, like now I have no pain when doing any of that stuff. Right. And it's great for me in jiu-jitsu, but I think it's also great for the health of my discs and my back because I have the ability to do these things.
It was amazing when you asked our guest recently, Mike,
Idala.
When you asked Mike, you said, do you like ever have any pain? And he was like,
yeah.
He's like, no. And it's one thing for somebody to like, be like, oh, I don't have any pain, but they're not engaged in something that's like violent or not engaged in something that's crazy.
Yeah.
This guy's he just broke the Guinness Book of World Record. The former record was 200 pounds and he beat it by 200. He beat it by 55 pounds.
Yep.
He did a 255 pound Turkish getup.
Insane.
The build, the physique that this guy had, just the look of his body,
meaty forearms.
Yeah, his tendons, his knees, his elbows. You were like, this is a fierce dude.
Yeah. And he's starting jiu-jitsu, which is just like, oh my God.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Son of a.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what a great example of like strong wrists, strong feet. And some of his stuff, I know he works on these things individually too, but a lot of these things I think have just come from his background. And so, you end up working a lot of these things sometimes with the activities that you do so for some of us that are a little older, maybe you can still get into some of these activities. That would be really cool. But for those of you that have children, that's where it's going to be important. Like I think soccer would be great for you to get your kids into, gymnastics, maybe jiu-jitsu. But Mike had an acrobatic background, and that's where he was able to kind of showcase his strength. And he's showing us like those knuckle push-up things. He actually did that move as part of that Turkish getup.
Lying on the ground, yeah.
Yeah, you saw like when he transitioned into, he's doing this. This is so ridiculous too. We're not even really mentioning, for those of you who can see it, it's incredible. But he's doing it with one hand on a regular like length barbell, which doesn't make any sense. It seems to be really difficult. But, that's not the only reason to build these things up so that you can just do some of these freak weird things. You could be someone like Mike that is engaged in really hard things. He's also doing ultra marathons and he has no injuries. He feels great.
Yeah. You don't see that often with those types of athletes. Usually there's just a lot of just general pain.
Runners are always screwed up. Yeah. Almost always.
They're also usually malnourished. It's such an interesting.
Yeah, eat a sandwich and a cookie or something.
But that's one of those things. That's why I'm getting more into the gymnastics stuff. I'm doing ring work every day, because there is a difference with the control that these athletes have over their body. There's a strength you can have over an implement, then there's a control and strength you can have with your body. And I think that because he's built that control and strength with his body and mastery of that, it benefits everything else. It benefits his ability to work with all tools, and I know that is a place where I have a lot to grow, which is why I'm putting so much effort and focus into that. And I think one thing is, I know I've held this belief that since I didn't do gymnastics or this type of stuff as a kid, that it's just like, as an adult, you don't see people benefit, make gains with that as an adult. But I honestly think that for me, it might be 3, 4, 5 years, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I'll be able to do some really cool stuff. For now, I'm just going to be continuing to gain mastery of the basics and slowly progressing my ability to master my body weight.
Well, and this is what makes it so important to take some stuff from other sports, like the rings, is something that, fortunately the CrossFitters started kind of messing with them, and you just started seeing the rings end up in more and more gyms, and the rings is actually how Rogue Fitness was built. I believe Bill Henninger made a ring for his wife, who was already into the CrossFit stuff, and I think the rest is history. That was the first thing he ever made. He made a steel version of one of those rings, and then kind of continued to make stuff from there. But we're fortunate that there's been good exposure with these things, because it just kind of leads you to believe why don't we take some stuff from other sports? Why don't we grab a little something from arm wrestling? Those guys seem to be crazy strong. Why don't we grab some stuff from the stuff that you see a shot putter do? You ever see a thrower, an Olympic thrower, shot put, discus? You're not going to find someone bigger or more explosive than those guys and girls. I mean, there's unbelievable the strength that they have, and the amount of speed that they can have within 10 or 20 yards.
Yeah.
It's shocking, because they're so big. And so it's well, these athletes are large and they're able to move themselves really fast. Why wouldn't I start to think about or consider, what are some things that they do? What are they working on? How do they develop the speed? Obviously, there's a lot of technique to the shot put and stuff, and I'm not really saying to learn how to throw the shot put or the discus. That might be too much distance from what you're currently doing. But you could probably take a page out of their book and start to incorporate some of the things that you might see from a thrower or from a rock climber or something like that.
And I think there's multiple things here. You mentioned the rock climbers. A cool thing about them is they do so much finger and hand training. There's this guy.
Oh, look at that, just twisting with a stick. It's that's another exercise anyone can do.
Yeah,
twisting around with a stick.
Yeah. But there's this guy, his name is Magnus Mitbo or whatever on YouTube. He has a few million subscribers. He's an amazing rock climber. The such an interesting thing about this dude is he's light. Okay. So his bench press isn't crazy. I think he benches 255, 275 or something like that. But then you see, this dude. But then you see his ability to, pull up on the rocks, and he'll do finger pull-ups and all this type of stuff. And you look at his forearm stuff, you realize he has such a crazy mastery over his body and his hand strength, etc.
255 bench, by the way, is strong.
It is strong. No. I'm not saying, but I'm saying when we look at the strength athlete, that's his weight, right? But the thing is he could definitely, that's the thing. If he were to focus on bench press or whatever, he'd be very strong, very fast, because of the mastery I think he has over his body. But the cool thing is when it comes to strengthening the hands and fingers, rock climbers, they have fingerboards that they hang up on walls. I'm getting one for my place. I'm going to put it over a bathroom or something so I can train the fingers more. But I think it's one of those activities also that I think is probably just, if you're looking for something that you want to get good at that improves the body and that has great community, I think rock climbing is one of those things that a lot of people might find enjoyable.
Yeah, it looks pretty damn difficult.
He's jacked as fuck.
I think, there's been some great coaches and great people who have kind of drawn attention to some of these things. Josh Bryant comes to mind. Josh Bryant's been talking about training the wrist, training the forearms. the gas station ready, gas station strong type of stuff he's been talking about. He's been talking about sprinting hills. He's very proficient at a lot of these things as well.
Yeah.
Former strongman, former bodybuilder. He's
programs for Tom Haviland.
He's an animal.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch him sprint, you're like, okay, that's pretty crazy. So there's been a lot of great, and obviously he's talking a lot about the neck.
Yeah.
He talks a lot about training the neck.
I'm happy he does that. It's huge.
And there's been a bunch of other people. What are some things that you've noticed from training your neck? And then now today I saw you training like your teeth or your jaw.
Yeah. So I've been training neck for a while. It's especially being in grappling. There's so many pressures that you put on your neck when you're rolling in certain positions, but training the neck just by improving the strength of that and the way it innervates with the rest of my body has made me just not just feel so much stronger. I am stronger, because before I was training the neck, I didn't realize how disconnected the neck felt from everything else. Also, I'd get little neck injuries and tweaks here and there from time to time because, again, jiu-jitsu does put so much strain on the neck, not just from the pressures that your opponent puts on your neck, but also because you're rolling around on this thing all the time and you're articulating it in different ways as you're rolling around. But by strengthening it, it's like it literally connected the whole anterior chain of my body, or posterior chain of my body, like from the feet all the way up. So when I'm doing different neck work, and when I've also started adding in kind of like the bite training to my neck work, it's crazy the sensation I feel. Like
bite training,
dude, dog. It's
don't take that the wrong way, everybody.
It's pretty crazy because, yeah, of course, like you can do these things. You could even use a towel. You don't have to get the iron neck or head harness. These are great things, but you can use a plate. You could use a towel. But when I started, I got this from this guy. His name is Death Grip on Instagram. He's based in the UK, and it's a bite trainer where you can like put this. I can put it on a sled. I can put it on a weight. But it gets the neck isn't just the neck. When you clamp down, you'll feel all these things from your masters and your neck activate. So as I've been using this, I've just felt it's the sensation is different. You know, I still get all this stuff with the neck. I can do rotations, I can do extensions. But when I'm moving stuff using the jaw, it's like everything is active, and it almost feels like you clamp everything together, and it's crazy. And the sensation you get in your jaw after you do it, you feel stronger. It's weird. That's the only thing I can describe. You literally feel like you can knock somebody the fuck out because it's all connected. So I think it's something that, because it's such a unique sensation, it's definitely brushed under the table for most of us. And it's definitely worth investing into starting to train that.
I know when I was wrestling that, like if I kind of hurt my neck or my neck was like banged up, I couldn't really lift anything. Going in the gym and doing curls and stuff, it felt like somebody like short circuited my nervous system.
Yeah.
I remember like going to like bench press or just do any of the lifts in the gym, a squat actually felt super uncomfortable. And just, you have that neck where someone, you know, calls your name and you got to kind of like turn your whole body. It's super frustrating. I think that when your neck is out of whack, you know, being in pain can kind of throw you for a loop anyway. But like, I think when your neck is out of whack, I think it throws your mood off quite a bit.
That's another thing though. Like I used to tweak my neck here and there. I can't remember the last time I've had a neck injury because like it's now strong.
Resilient.
It's resilient, right? So especially if you're a contact athlete, it's definitely worth it. But I think everyone needs to do something for their neck too, not just contact athletes and combat sport athletes. It makes a difference.
I kind of almost feel when I'm done doing it that I feel like taller. My posture feels better. I feel like I'm walking around like someone's like pulling me up from like the ears or something weird like that.
Yeah.
It feels really
You have
good.
your cervical spine, man. And it's like most of the things we do, like we have this awareness of our spine, but we don't ever do anything for this area, which is kind of odd. All right, Mark, you're getting leaner and leaner, but you always enjoy the food you're eating. So how you doing it?
I got a secret, man. It's called Good Life Protein.
Okay, tell me about that.
I've been doing some Good Life Protein. You know, we've been talking on the show for a really long time of certified Piedmontese beef, and you can get that under the umbrella of Good Life Proteins, which also has chicken breast, chicken thighs, sausage, shrimp, scallops, all kinds of different fish, salmon, tilapia. The website has nearly any kind of meat that you can think of. Lamb is another one that comes to mind. And so I've been utilizing and kind of using some different strategy, kind of depending on the way that I'm eating. So if I'm doing a keto diet, I'll eat more fat, and that's where I might get the sausage, and I might get their 80-20 grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef. I might get bacon. And there's other days where I kind of do a little bit more bodybuilder style, where the fat is, might be like 40 grams or something like that. And then I'll have some of the leaner cuts of the certified Piedmontese beef.
This is one of the reasons why like neither of us find it hard to stay in shape, because we're always enjoying the food we're eating. And protein, you talk about protein, leverage it all the time. It's satiating and helps you feel full.
I look forward to every meal. And I can surf and turf,
Yeah.
I could cook up some, chicken thighs or something like that and have some shrimp with it, or I could have some steak. I would say, the steak, it keeps going back and forth for me on my favorites. So it's hard for me to lock one down, but I really love the bavette steaks.
Yeah.
And then I also love the ribeyes as well.
You can't go wrong with the ribeyes. So guys, if you guys want to get your hands on some really good meat, you can head to goodlifeproteins.com and use code POWER for 20% off any purchases made on the website, or you can use code POWERPROJECT to get an extra 5% off if you subscribe and save to any meats that are a recurring purchase.
This is the best meat in the world. Yeah, I forgot to mention earlier, we were talking about the back, and we we're talking about, kind of segments of the back and being able to like articulate that lower part. I've shown this on videos before and shown it to a bunch of people, like my spine. I made my spine rigid. And so because I made my spine rigid, those parts don't want to move. And something I've really been working on lately is when I'm picking up the sandbags. And, I can pick up like, I guess, a decent weight sandbag, but I can't really do anything with it at the moment because I'm not strong enough yet to like really, shoulder, 300-pound thing and stuff like that yet. But I'm getting better at it all the time. But I'm not necessarily focused in on like lifting a crazy amount of weight. What I'm focused in on is that the spine, really kind of being almost tucking my hips underneath me and very intentionally rounding the spine. And then once I pick the weight up, I'm actually trying to keep the spine kind of in that position and then roll the weight up my legs and then kind of sit up on my legs and then, get into like, I guess, some hip extension from there. But it's been feeling really good. And to be able to move my spine around like that, I actually think it's going to help my sprinting a ton.
Agreed.
Because when you see like for me, for my hips to do certain things and for my body to do certain things with how tight it is right now, it has to move in an awkward and uncoordinated way. Like it just has to move that way because it doesn't have the range of motion to move the way that somebody who might be a little bit smoother at running is going to move. And so this is my way of kind of practicing some of that.
Yeah. Everybody should have a sandbag, I think. It's just the way you have to learn to lift it, the intelligence that it brings, the way you move your body is something that will seep into, again, everything else that you do. So an easy addition for any person who does strength conditioning. Shoulders, throwing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one. Yeah, to be able to move your shoulders around the right way. And again, like there's so many different ways of doing this, but I've been doing like a lot of med ball stuff, and I'll just literally just put a med ball like almost as hard as I can with right side, left side, and I'm trying to really make sure that I'm using my glute and my whole body to throw it rather than just my shoulder.
Yeah.
And I'll throw different weighted med balls all the time. I'll sometimes kind of swing them, from left to right, like I'm baling hay. Other times I will, like I said, shot put them. I'll throw them with both arms. I'll throw them with one arm. One thing I don't do much of is actually literally just throw something like a baseball. And I should probably mess with some of that too, because I think that would be useful and that would be really good for my shoulders.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where when you train in the gym, you're typically, you see shoulder presses, lateral raises. Some people do the behind the neck presses to get some of that range, but your shoulder and scapula, it's like we're good at throwing things. You know what I mean? We're good at throwing objects. We were good at throwing objects for hunting. Like this whole girl, like you see pitchers throwing things at 90 plus miles per hour. This structure was meant to do more than just press things overhead. So if you can have like habits, if you can have practices that help that that area improve, that's going to be huge. A few that I do daily are I set up those gymnastics rings. So I'll hang from it a little bit, because one skill I want to get back is the skill of brachiating. Brachiating meaning like doing the monkey bars and being able to do that normally. Kids can do that naturally, and then over time most people stop doing it, and then the shoulders lose that ability to just like hang overhead and support the body, you know? So that's a skill I'm getting back to just improve the health and mobility of that area. But outside of just hanging and improving brachiation, I do throwing patterns with the rope. I use a club, and I'll do throwing patterns with maces and clubs, because those will get like, I mean, this is a very small one. Okay, this is hooked, but this will get that rotating, right? So this can really be helpful for, that can really be helpful for just the health of your scapula and shoulders. And I've noticed, like, again, it makes a very big difference for me over time, grappling and just now, like just hanging now, I'm getting better at hanging from one arm. I can't do it for a super long time, but I know, again, within a year, I'll probably be able to hang off of one arm for maybe like 50 seconds to a minute. In 2 years, I'll be able to brachiate on the monkey bars like a kid. So it's one of those things that is, and then like, I think about this. If I now have that ability to manipulate my shoulders by throwing and brachiating, when I'm doing something like sprinting, you know, when your arms are swinging like this and you need your arms to be able to propel you, it's not just your arms, it's like this action of the shoulder and scapula.
Oh, my shoulder has like totally killed me after some sprints before. And I'm like, what? I didn't really even lift yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, my body's getting like kind of blown apart from from sprinting. That motion, and then also like there's like a downward and a back motion that goes to it. It's not necessarily just the stretching. I don't even think that that's bothering me. I think it's literally like the forces like almost downward.
Yeah,
and I guess upward too. But I think it's some of those forces that are kind of pulling things apart a bit. One thing I want to mention that I think is really kind of cool and amazing is that the progress that you can make.
Oh, yeah.
Because like you're going to do these things and you're not going to necessarily suck at them, but you're not going to be proficient at them for no reason. Like more than likely, you're just not going to be that good at them. And so any amount of work, we're talking about neck work, like how many sets, how many reps? Well, just, you know,
2-3 times a week.
Yeah. 2-3 times a week. Maybe just do like 2 sets, like 2 sets on one side, 2 sets forward, 2 sets back. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing it, but since you're not used to doing it, you're going to make great progress. Whereas I was just saying in the gym earlier, I was just doing some lat pull downs, kind of just do it more for like motion and just movement than anything else. You know, when's the last time someone that's trained for 10 years improved on like a lat pull down?
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're improving slightly on like the technique of it or something like that, but you probably didn't go from, you know, more recently, probably didn't go from like 190 to 220 on the lat pull down, just because like, I don't know, who cares? Like those are resistance exercises. That's not really the way that you treat them. However, when you're starting to engage in doing something like pull-ups, or you're starting to engage in trying to hang from one arm, and you hang from one arm and then you have bands underneath your feet kind of assisting you and holding you, and you're like, cool, I made it to 30 seconds. Oh, I wonder how long I could stay, you know, holding onto the bar without the bands. And then you try it and you're like, oh man, I could only do like 3 seconds. Over time, you start to build a capacity for that. And because these things are new inputs, you're going to get way better at them really fast.
Yeah. And one thing is, I think some of you guys might be wondering, okay, how do I incorporate all this into a training program? I don't think it's about like, this might sound, I think it's about trying to make some of these just like some practices. So you could have a list of things you want to try to do. Like if you want to add in a little bit of rice bucket, if you want to add in some neck work, you can have a list of these things. I have this app on my phone. It's a task app that just like kind of has different movement minimums and different things I'm going to try to get it done each day. But like, it's as simple as having a towel that you can put around your neck and get in some light neck work, put it away. It's as simple as keeping a towel underneath your computer at work or wherever you are, do some towel curls during the day, put it away, you know, some rice bucket. You can have some clubs at home. I think this is where like
some of this stuff just like in your living room. And it looks like when you're doing the rings, it looks like it's like right next to your kitchen, right?
It's in the living room.
Yeah.
It makes it easy to like, you know, because I do a lot of stuff. So it makes it easy to just kind of, okay, I'm going to touch this. I'm going to touch this. I'm going to do this. Right. But that adds up. You walk past it. You're like, I'll just hang off them for a minute. Exactly.
Maybe. And then I would even imagine that sometimes you do that and you're like, oh, I'll just try this. Oh, I'll just try this. Next thing you know, 15 minutes went by and you snuck in an extra session of it, right?
And honestly, you don't need it. This is the thing I tell people in this group that you don't need to be obsessed with this stuff, but if it's around, you're going to do it. If it's away and the only time you ever touch anything is in the gym, then it's going to be it's going to be much more difficult to get in some of these different things, because when you typically go to a gym, you're like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And trying to pack everything into some single training session is going to be hours and hours of work. But if you can passively do some of this stuff, right? Because it's just you set up your environment to serve you in that way, it makes progress so much easier.
A lot of this stuff is stuff that you can even do while you're watching TV.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked many times before. We had Kadora on the podcast, and he talked a lot about how he feels the floor is resting. It's a great resting place. And for those of you who are kind of thinking, man, the floor kind of hurts, well, that's kind of the point of it. So one thing you can get, you know, like we have a lot of like gadgets and stuff, and they just make things easier.
Yeah.
But you can either get like a Go mat from Rogue Fitness. I believe it's one of Jason Kleepa's products, or you can get, there's something called a stacked mat, SKAT, I think it is.
Scat?
Stacked.
Scat mat?
I forget how you say it, but there it is. It's something like that.
All right.
I saw it on Shark Tank one time, and I bought a couple of these, and they're just nice because it's actually like kind of like almost like a hard cushion rather than like a super soft, but it makes just getting on the ground and all these different things way easier. So if you have like a tile floor or something like that, rather than just getting down on the tile floor, you can get down on something like that a little easier. But, you know, just getting down on the ground and sitting in different positions, and then also myofascial release, which we talk about all the time. There I am with my puppy sitting in my chair and, you know, using the body lever. It's great. You know, you get to just kind of work on yourself as you're sitting there. And if you see like to the left, there's like a couple other things on the ground there that I'm, you know, using all the time. It's not really in the way. You know, no one else in the family really cares that I'm like doing all this shit, you know, kind of off to the side. And it's just a great way to work on yourself.
Absolutely. And this is the thing it's good for you to take care of yourself. I sometimes, I notice some people think, oh, this is overkill. You're too obsessed with doing this stuff. But it's like, well, I like my body to feel good.
I am obsessed with it. I love it.
I like my body to feel good.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah. You know, and it's great, you know, having just the capacities to just do certain things without thinking. Like I was thinking about this the other day. So me and my girl every night we'll just sit there. There's a show we'll watch together. So she'll just like sit on top of me. And when I'm on the couch, my hips are open in this like I'm lying back and my hips are open in like the I don't want to call it the Indian crow position, but it's when your legs are open.
Crisscross applesauce.
Okay. Crisscross applesauce. And then she just sits right there and lies back. But I'm like, my hips don't feel shit. Like she could just literally sit on my hips and they're splayed open.
I bet she can.
and I'm like, damn, this feels good to have this mobility to not feel like my shit's going to cramp up. Because I remember in the past, I would not have this type of
Don't sit there. Ouch.
Yeah, right. And it's like this is why I do some of this stuff. So I can just feel comfortable in these positions. You know what I mean? So it's just work on it, guys. Work on it.
Yeah, I really like, you know, feeling good. I don't have any pain. I don't have any injuries. Anytime something does pop up where I feel something, I'm able to take care of it pretty much right away. When I do have an injury, I just don't do certain things. When I have, you know, something that may be more problematic, like I just can kind of read it and I'll be like, that can turn into something real if I don't pay attention to it. You know, this thing I have in my heel or this thing I have in my calf, like if I don't pay attention to it, that could tear, that could rupture, and like I don't want anything to do with that. So even just recently I was in Los Angeles and there's this really awesome hill to run by the beach, and my calf was feeling iffy and I was supposed to do some sprints, and I'm like, I'm just not going to sprint.
Yeah.
Just going to walk, you know, and you live to lift another day, and you live to still enjoy these things that we enjoy to do. But if you try to ignore it, you're not addressing it, then you're going to probably end up in some trouble.
Yeah.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.